everyone, back tuning in today's first video doing JMA Friday. For today's first video, having a look at the weather for the next month across the British Isles with the Japanese and CFS tomorrow. Later on, we'll have a look at weather next week to 10 days and see how the cold weather is coming on through next week in terms of this Scandinavian high we've been talking about over the past couple of days. So a couple of big updates coming on the website today. Before I get on with JMA Friday, just to say about the ads, there's links particles on all pages. You can have a browser, you can click through the links. You're going to be helping to pay the website. Thanks so much for doing that. And also this video adds to most of the pages which open up content, and when you've watched them, you can close them back up again by pressing the little X in the video. Right, thanks very much for doing that. It does help to pay for gazwebs.com. So we'll start off with the JMA, and then we'll have a look at CFS-V2, and we're going to take us into March, can you believe? We'll just go to the very start of the new month with this. So we're going to be leaving winter, or meteorological winter anyway, which runs from the 1st of December through to the 28th or 29th of February. And of course spring is classed meteorologically, statistically, as the 1st of March to the 31st of May. All very questionable in terms of what weather does, because it doesn't stick by our definitions, of course, so you can get very wintry conditions well on into the spring. But in terms of the statistics, it is helpful to have defined periods, and that means that this update is going to take us into the defined period for the start of spring. So let's get on with the update. We'll start off with the JMA, then we'll have a look at CFS-V2. These are the 500 millibar height anomalies broken down into weekly periods from the JMA, from the North Pole down. So the North Pole is somewhere around here, the British Isles is somewhere there. So for the coming week, this takes us from the 3rd through to the 10th. It looks unsettled. We've got low pressure out to the west, and if I change the colour of the highlight, we've got this big ridge here up to the north and the northeast. The jet stream is doing something a bit like that. So we're starting unsettled now, of course, and quite mild and Atlantic driven. We know that as we go into next week, or we think as we go into next week, we're going to get more influence from this ridge of high pressure up over Scandinavia. So this is a fairly good representation of where we're starting off, but next week it probably does turn a little bit more blocked in terms of this high pressure to the northeast. Going through to week 2, this takes us from the 10th through to the 17th of February. Again, we've got the ridge up to the northeast there, trough of low pressure through many central western parts of Europe, and we're going on to the cold side of the jet stream there. So that does look quite a cold one to me. I think we'd be bringing the air in via this ridge from the east, and of course with this trough there's going to be the potential for precipitation as well, and some of that could be wintry. So this middle phase of February, 10th to 17th, could be rather wintry, could be quite cold, and maybe with a chance of some snow there through that period. And then we go through to weeks 3 and 4, which takes us from the 17th of February through to the 3rd of March, so just going into the start of spring. Still looks unsettled. Low pressure is in the west of Europe. This ridge is still there up to the north and to the northeast as well, so it doesn't look like a great deal's changing, but the coldest of the air might be going a little bit more to the north, perhaps in towards Scandinavia, and we might be getting a little bit more of an Atlantic influence. That could be a bit transitional, so it's a 2-weekly anomaly. You might find that week 3 is pretty cold still, and then week 4 is quite a bit milder, something like that. But overall, the broad picture isn't very different, so we could keep it cold into the second half of February with that. Having a look at the mid-latitude view then in tropics, this is the equator, of course, just here. See how straight I can draw the line. There we go. We've got the northern hemisphere up there, and the southern hemisphere, of course, is down here. You can't see the polar regions. They're off the map. They're up there somewhere in terms of North Pole, and down there in terms of South Pole. And the British Isles, if I change the highlight again, British Isles is just here in the top right hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. Right, so we know where everybody is. We've got this trough of low pressure, of course, for the coming week. This takes us again through this week, 3rd through to the 10th of February with an Atlantic-driven flow. Think that's pretty good for where we're starting off. Probably more of an influence from high pressure over Scandinavia later on. Looking at the temperature forecast then for the coming week, we find temperatures are generally on the milder than average side. It's a little bit cooler down to the south, but overall temperatures coming out above average for the coming week. And for the precipitation, that also is coming out above average, so quite a wet and mildish week, albeit trending colder as we get into next week. This takes us into week 2, which is the 10th through to 17th of February. This one did look colder. The trough is elongating through central western parts of Europe. You can't really see the blocking feature that's up here, but we know we've got quite a big area of high pressure to our north and northeast. So temperature anomalies are going colder than average, particularly so for England and Wales, to less of a degree for Scotland, but let's say all parts really are turning quite cold there through that week from the 10th to the 17th of February, and still with above average precipitation as well. So there will be the threat there of snow, I would have thought, with temperatures dropping and still quite unsettled pattern. Don't be surprised if there's some snow through the middle part of February. And then weeks 3 and 4, not very different, still with that trough of low pressure around the west of Europe, still with a bit of a blocking feature to the northeast, probably a bit more of an Atlantic influence, but it's probably transitional, so week 3 might be colder, week 4 might be drier. Temperature anomalies are lifting up, so we're losing that colder than average sea level that we have through the middle part of February, going a little bit closer to average, maybe even a bit above for northern parts of the country. And the precipitation, that is still coming out above average. So quite a wettish month coming up for February, interestingly. We haven't had a wetter than average month since June last year. We've had a long run of drier than average months, but February could break that long run of drier than average. And of course some of that precipitation could well, as I say, fall as snow, particularly through that middle phase of the month. So fairly cool and quite unsettled, sort of wettish, maybe at times wintry February being signalled there by the JMA. The CFS V2 for the coming month looking like this. The first 500 millibar height anomaly will take us from the 3rd through to the 9th of February. Very much in line with what the JMA is doing. We've got this ridge over Scandinavia, we've got the trough in the Atlantic, the jet stream doing something rather like that. So we start off with an Atlantic-driven flow over time through next week. This ridge should start to become more influential, should start to push colder air in from the east. Then we go through to week 2, which is the 10th through to the 16th of February. The high pressure over Scandinavia is taking over the pattern. It's feeding into this ridge that's in the Atlantic as well. We've got a cut-off low to the south. The flow overall should be coming in from the east, particularly so for England and Wales, where it could be a cold easterly that, perhaps bringing bitterly cold air through that middle part of February in towards the south and the east in particular. Week 3, which is the 17th through to the 23rd of February, looks like a battle taking place. We've still got the high pressure over Scandinavia. We've got this trough of low pressure out to the west of the country in the Atlantic. The flow's probably going something like that. And again, as this trough tries to bring milder air in from off the Atlantic, of course, it's meeting this cold air from the east. So I would have thought that could be producing quite a bit of snow there across the country as that mild air comes up against the cold block that's sitting to our east. Again, that could be transitional, so maybe starting off 17th, 18th, 19th, quite cold, then some sort of snow event, and then 21st, 22nd, 23rd turning milder, something like that. Have to bear in mind these are sort of weekly anomalies, so you will get day-to-day changes. And then we go through to week 4, which takes us from 24th of February through to the 2nd of March. The Scandinavian highs push back into the west of Russia. So the Scandinavian high being forced back by the Atlantic. There's a bit of a trough there close to Scandinavia. And we've also got some ridging through the Atlantic. So although the Scandinavian high is being pushed back, that doesn't really scream as a milder pattern, to be honest. I think the jet stream within this trough here is probably doing something a bit like that. So we could well still be on the cold side of the jet. The difference is that instead of bringing the air in from the east, we may be having more of a northwesterly sort of influence with the air, with the flow of the jet stream going something like that. So probably a bit milder at the end of February as we lose our easterly, but I wouldn't necessarily be thinking that is a particularly mild pattern by any means. Let's have a look at the temperature anomalies. The coming week comes out milder than average, so that's in line with what the JMA is doing. Then week 2, 10th to 16th of February, that one comes out colder than average. So again, agreement there for this to be quite a cold week through this second week of February. Notice how cold it is across many parts of Europe, really locked into the freezer there across many parts of the continent. Again, it's been really cold winter, of course, so much of Europe this winter, and we're at it again through the second week of February. Week 3 from the 17th to 23rd still looks cold on average, particularly for England and Wales. It is moderating a bit over on the continent, but still generally quite cold. And then week 4, which is 24th of February through to the 2nd of March, that one turns milder than average, as it does through most parts of Europe. I'm a bit unsure about that. I don't think the 500 millibar height anomaly for that week 4 period suggested anything quite as mild as that. Certainly not for us, anyway, where we're still on the cold side of the jet stream. But anyway, it's 4 weeks away, so it's not worth worrying about. Finally, precipitation from the CFS V2. So what we see for this week is that it's a wetter than average week, so mild and wet for the first week. Then it turns drier, of course. As it turns colder, it turns drier, but with the risk of some precipitation, which could be wintry. Week 3 just goes to average. This is where we've got that battle going on between the trough coming in from the Atlantic, the ridge over Scandinavia. So it is more unsettled through this week 3 period than it is compared to week 2. Only average precipitation, again, some of that might be wintry. And then we go through to week 4, where, again, very weak signal, really, but suggesting, if anything, probably to be a little bit colder, a little bit drier than average. And I think we would still likely be a little bit colder than average there in week 4, to be honest. So, yes, it looks like it turns a little bit more unsettled through the second half of February, but nothing overly wet. So that's a little bit out of line with the JMA, actually. The CFS is drier for this month, whereas the JMA suggests quite a wet month. In terms of temperatures, though, I think they're both signaling a fairly cold month, to be honest, particularly around that middle 2 weeks, so week 2, week 3, and then probably milder, but not necessarily particularly mild, into week 4. So quite an interesting February ahead. Remember, these long-range models are always highly experimental, so it isn't to be relied upon at all. They could look very different next week. It's just a snapshot, really, of what they're suggesting today. So that's JMA Friday done. Later on this afternoon, we'll have a look at the weather next week to 10 days and see if we can firm up a bit on this Scandinavian high, try and work out what it's going to do next week. So come back for that this afternoon. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.